Look at the person next to you. The one with the better job, the nicer apartment, the relationship that seems to work, the body you wanted, the confidence you lack, the opportunities that came to them without the struggle you went through. Now look at what you feel when you see them. You call it ambition. You tell yourself, I want what they have. I am driven. I am motivated. I am hungry for more. But there is a question you have never honestly asked yourself. If that person lost everything tomorrow, would you feel sad for them? Or would you feel relief? That answer tells you everything. Because ambition wants to build, wants to destroy. And most people, if they are honest, have been confusing the two for years. It was the year 41 AD. A man sat in a small room on the island of Corsica, far from Rome, far from everything he had built, far from everyone who knew his name. His name was Seneca. He was one of the most educated men in Rome, a writer, a philosopher, a man whose words were read by some of the most powerful people in the world. He had built a reputation over decades, carefully, quietly, through work that spoke for itself. And then one man decided he did not like that. The Emperor Claudius, pushed by people around him who were uncomfortable with Seneca's influence, signed an order of exile. Seneca was removed from Rome, stripped of his position, sent to Corsica, a small, isolated island, with nothing to offer a man who had lived at the center of the most powerful civilization on earth. He had done nothing wrong. He had simply become visible enough to make envious people uncomfortable. He sat in that room on Corsica, and instead of collapsing, instead of spending his days replaying the unfairness of what had happened, he wrote. Not angry letters, not complaints, philosophy. Because he understood something about the people who had put him there that most people never understand about the people who resent them. Envy is not about you. It is never about you. It is about the person feeling it and what they cannot tolerate seeing in someone else. Here is what envy actually is, and why it is so easy to mistake for ambition. Ambition is directional. It has a target, something you want to build, achieve, become. It looks forward. It measures itself against its own previous position. Envy is comparative. It has no target of its own, only a reference point in someone else. It does not look forward. It looks sideways constantly, obsessively measuring itself against other people. The person with ambition wakes up and asks, what do I need to do today to get closer to where I want to be? The person with envy wakes up and asks, why do they have what I don't? These are completely different questions. They produce completely different lives. And here is the brutal part: most people asking the second question genuinely believe they are asking the first one. Seneca wrote in one of his private letters, envy is the enemy of happy people and the companion of unhappy ones. Not sometimes, always. Because envy requires you to be unhappy. It feeds on your dissatisfaction. It needs you to feel behind, to feel that someone else's success is evidence of your failure. And it keeps you there, scrolling, comparing, calculating instead of building. You have been building nothing. You have been watching other people build and calling the discomfort you feel ambition. It is not ambition, it is envy. And it is keeping you exactly where you are. Seneca spent 8 years in Corsica, 8 years away from Rome, away from his career, his connections, his reputation, everything he had built. While he was there, the people who had put him there continued their lives. They attended dinners, they held positions. They enjoyed everything Seneca had lost. And Seneca wrote, not because he expected anyone to read it, not because he was building a platform, because writing clearly about difficult things was the only practice that made sense to him when everything else had been taken away. He was not watching what they had. He was not calculating the gap between their position and his. He was not building resentment into a story about unfairness. He was doing the only thing that was actually within his control. This is the second thing about envy that most people never understand. Envy is passive. It requires nothing from you except attention. You can lie in bed, do nothing, produce nothing, risk nothing, and still feel envy. In fact, the less you do, the more you feel it. Because the gap between where you are and where other people appear to be grows larger every day you spend watching instead of building. Ambition is active. It requires action, uncomfortable, uncertain, often unrewarded action. It requires you to do things when the outcome is not guaranteed, to build when no one is watching, to continue when the results are not visible yet. Envy feels like a motivator. It is not. It is a distraction dressed as drive. Every hour you spend comparing yourself to someone else is an hour you did not spend becoming someone worth comparing to. Seneca understood this. He did not spend 8 years on Corsica, calculating what the people in Rome had that he did not. He spent 8 years becoming clearer, sharper, more certain of exactly what he thought and why. When he returned to Rome, eventually recalled by the Emperor Nero's mother, who wanted him as a tutor for her son, he came back, not as a man diminished by exile, but as a man refined by it. The people who had been comfortable in Rome for 8 years had not grown. They had simply continued. Seneca had been forced to build in the only place available to him inside himself, and that is the only place ambition actually lives, not in what other people have, not in the gap between their position and yours, not in the comparison that your brain runs automatically every time you open your phone and see someone doing something you wish you were doing. Inside you, in what you are building, in what you are becoming regardless of what anyone else is doing or having or achieving. Here is the third thing about envy, and this one is the most uncomfortable. Envy tells you that other people's success is the problem. If they had less, you would feel better. If the gap were smaller, you would be more at peace. If success were distributed more fairly, you would finally be able to move. None of that is true. You know people who have more than the people you envy, and you do not envy them. You know people who have less than you, and they are building something quietly that makes you uncomfortable when you think about it. Envy is not a response to inequality. It is a response to your own inaction. It shows up most powerfully in the areas where you know you should be doing something and are not. The person whose career makes you envious, there is something in your own work you have been avoiding. The person whose relationship makes you envious, there is something in your own behavior you have refused to change. The person whose discipline makes you envious, there is something you committed to and quietly abandoned. Envy is not information about them. It is information about you. It is pointing directly, clearly, without comfort at exactly where your own unfinished work is. Seneca came back to Rome. He tutored Nero. He became one of the most influential men in Rome, again, not because circumstances changed, but because he had used exile to build something that circumstances could not touch. And then years later, Nero turned on him. 2. Seneca was accused of conspiracy. Given a death sentence by the same student he had spent years teaching, he accepted it. Not dramatically, not with a speech. He called his friends together, said what he wanted to say, and died on his own terms, calmly, deliberately, as a man who had spent his entire life practicing exactly what he had written. No envy, no resentment, no final calculation of what was fair and what was not. Just a man who had decided decades earlier that the only thing worth building was something no emperor could exile and no death sentence could take. You are not ambitious. Not yet. Ambition requires you to stop looking sideways at what they have, what they built, what they achieved, and start looking forward, at what you have not done yet, at what you have been avoiding, at the work that is waiting for you in the only place it has ever been, inside you, not in comparison to anyone else. When you feel that discomfort, that tight, hot, uncomfortable feeling when someone else succeeds, do not call it ambition. Call it what it is. Then ask the only question that matters: what have I not built yet? And go build it. No sympathy, no shortcuts, just the truth.